Guys, welcome to the latest Thoughts on Thursday. Really excited this week to actually share some thoughts from the GrowthWorks. We typically sit quietly in the background, kind of getting on with our client work, but just thought we've had some really interesting discussions over the last few weeks with clients. And I think it's clear to me a couple of things. One is that partnerships could be a really solid way out of this recovery, or certainly have an important role to play for many businesses, but also that getting partnerships right takes a bit of expertise, takes a bit of time. So I was going to share my perspective on that for 15 minutes or so. And then hope would be we could just have a really good discussion afterwards about the role of partnerships in the industry. So I'll get started if that's okay. I've kind of gone with the topic of what if we reinvented hotels right now? You know, what role does a partnership strategy play? And there's four things I wanted to cover. The first of which is actually, for a change, to talk a little bit about what the GrowthWorks actually does. Because as a hospitality consultancy, we cover strategy, innovation, and action plan delivery. And I think it's more apparent than ever, these are three of the most critical areas of hospitality right now. Absolutely right that 80% of all of our businesses are focused on cost, on recovery marketing, on reopening operations in our hotels. But it feels like a really missed opportunity if we don't dedicate some time to actually what next for the next 2 or 3 years. Who do we want to be as businesses? And secondly, what can we do that's new? You know, what do we want to change from before the crisis to build into our products and services? And 3, how can our teams be more focused and move faster? Yeah, it's going to be a really competitive time, I think, from the hospitality for the next few years. And I think we all need to up our game. So I ask every client exactly the same question. Why is a guest going to choose you on the other side of this recovery? And I think what I'm hearing more and more is, you know, we're thinking about cleanliness, we're thinking about service, but it feels like many chains yet haven't really done the work, haven't really thought about how they can bounce back stronger. So we'll talk a bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about innovating through partners and why they're a great solution right now. But working with partners isn't easy. It does take time. It does take expertise. I want to share some thoughts on where to apply partnerships. You know, it's not about just jumping at the last cold call or LinkedIn approach you got, but it's about building and then managing an action plan around your strategy and where partnerships can play a role. And lastly, frankly, I want to share the framework that the GrowthWorks uses so you can actually just get on with this. We want to equip the world, the community, with the right tools to identify, vet, and onboard partners, because frankly, now is the time to experiment. Now is the time to make change in the industry. So a bit about us for those that don't know. You know, first thing, reflection is I realize how lucky I am to have the background and experience and network to do what we do today. So I started off in strategy roles at IHG and at Travelport. I got involved in travel startups and then was COO of Hostmaker, which at the time was Europe's biggest, you know, Airbnb property management short-let company. And we launched what's now Marriott Homes and Villas, their new business unit. So it was a great experience of watching a partnership come to life in a global hotel chain. Not many people know, but initially the GrowthWorks was actually focused on travel tech startups, actually helping founders on the tech side scale sustainably. But by the end of last year, I think we just realized all of the pain points in this space were sitting in the hotels. They just weren't set up for partnership success. So we actually pivoted the business back to supporting hotel chains and supporting hospitality businesses and helping them build stronger partnership and innovation hubs. And so since the beginning of the year, we've been working with IHG and a few others as really good launch partners to prove out the concepts. And now with the crisis, we've gone back to our roots a little bit. We're working on strategy, innovation, and action plans to get hotel chains boosted kind of through the recovery. So how do we work? We've got 3 products. You know, one is just advisory calls. So once a week, once a fortnight, once a month, we just grab time with senior leaders and the leadership team. Secondly is one-off projects where we dive into a solution or area that we know that they need to work on. And 3 is interim leadership. So kind of longer engagements where we work with people for a couple of days a week, perhaps, to help define and then manage their strategy and boost their recovery plan. What I love about our approach is we either let hotel chains do it themselves, or we can actually bring in the team. So we've got one of the strongest curated kind of network of hospitality consultants and experts covering everything from marketing, revenue management, ops, product and technology. And just recently, to give you an idea, we've been working on new websites, distribution technology stacks, building a new hospitality brand, training product team. So we really cover the full breadth of kind of hospitality strategy. And that's really the goal. Let's be the strategic advisor that the whole of the hospitality industry can turn to. And then we just help people get moving and deliver. So let's get into partnerships a little bit. There's three things around partnerships that I think really is holding back hoteliers around trying new stuff. Number one, we hear is it's not my job. And this is one of the biggest challenges. Managers just not wanting to risk doing something new. Partnerships by their nature start small. So you just don't get a lot of credit in that first year for launching a partnership. And if it goes wrong, you'll certainly get plenty of blame. So senior leaders often aren't hearing about new partners that are out there, new opportunities to do things differently. Secondly is actually, I don't think people know that what they have is broken. Most hotels are using tools that are holding them back, that can take years to integrate new technologies, new capabilities. They're often built as quite closed systems, but they run and teams know how to use them. So they just exist because it's the status quo. And then lastly, and this is a big group of people, is people just haven't had past success with partnerships. They tried a tool, maybe someone they met at a conference or someone they kind of got pinged on LinkedIn. So that's just a miss on probably not taking the time on the right partner for them and their strategy, nor actually committing and seeing through a bit of a mini process to make it a success. And for me, I guess summary here is now is the time to change this approach. We absolutely have an opportunity as an industry to move away from a culture of large capital investment projects into technology, frankly, that you can rent, or even technology as a revenue share. And these are going to be the big enablers for the recovery, especially where investment is frankly going to be constrained, as we hear about in everything that we listen to and everything we read. So the GrowthWorks, we have two fundamental beliefs. One is that there are amazing people in travel, and two is that hoteliers want to innovate. So if there's appetite and the solution requires resource and expertise, there must be an opportunity to help out. So we took the time to be constant students around partnerships, and we tried to build that advisory expertise that people will need. It all starts with objectivity, right? I think if you start with one partner in mind, you're probably going to go wrong. The right partner starts with your business and your strategy, your priorities, looking pretty broadly across the landscape, and setting it up according to your teams, your technologies, and your customers. So let's get into where the opportunity lies. For us, partnership always starts with strategy. What are you trying to achieve in the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 years? Whatever's that right horizon for your owner group or your investment or company or VC. It's not about what's right for the next 3 months. It's not about knee-jerking reactions around the crisis. It's around, do you want a seamless guest experience? Okay, well, actually, it may not be about remote check-in right now. You may have to look at things like your PMS. If you wanted to shift from, a blind obsession with RevPAR to looking at total revenue across the business, you might actually need to look at things like, revenue management, or how to introduce nimble technology into some of your restaurants and bars, both kind of revenue driving and also kind of operational efficiencies. And I think you've got to recognize you can't do everything. While many of these partners do have workarounds, most work best if the core tech is pretty agile and adaptable. So we always say you may end up with a slightly different priority than you thought you did, because a lot of these companies need to be looking at some of the core technology that they've got. So how do you do it? That's the kind of key kind of lesson for the day, I suppose. Well, look, it all starts with your plan and your strategy. It's and we'll dive into this a bit, but it's about actually where are you at, what do you need to do, and who's going to get involved. Once you've shaped that, then you can start to look at, okay, what areas can I look at? You need to get out there at this point and speak with providers, maybe get them to come and do some demos, potentially run a quick kind of what's called, an RFI, where you're just getting them to send some information about their capabilities, their pricing models, how they'd work with you. You need to ask people for testimonials. You need to see what might work with your existing tech by contacting some of your existing tech providers. Then we jump into this quite complicated accreditation process where you need to be balancing speed with thoroughness and taking care not to rush, because it's not great to start off with a completely misfit partner. It's sometimes quite hard to unwind. So are they proven? What customers do they already have? Are they going to stay in business for the next 12 to 24 months? Can you get the best terms? Are you safeguarding things like your guest data? Are you complying with the various privacy regulations and, you know, GDPR, California Privacy Act? And what other risks could you be introducing into the mix by using someone like this? It could be anything from protecting your brand standards to, you know, health and safety, if you're doing stuff in restaurants and bars. Next up comes the test phase, where it's about matching. It's about matching, you know, does this capability area and this partner, what hotels in your portfolio are they going to work best with? Because no one wants to waste time on pilots that don't work. And at this point, one of the things we're finding with clients is the partners will have a really good idea. If you can share some data with them around, you know, what's going on in the hotels, some revenue numbers, some customer numbers, they'll probably be able to come back and say, yeah, you know, we want to handle these cities or we want to handle these properties, which is a great place to start. You need to be monitoring with tests that are running, you know, daily and weekly, making tweaks as you go. It's not a one size, you know, it's not a once and done thing. And at this point, trust starts to come into play. You need to trust your partners to maximize the work you're doing together. You're getting the pilot right, the relationship, iterating as you go. And frankly, you should know at this point, are you feeling good about the collaboration? You know, do they feel like they're being responsive? Do they feel passionate and lucky to be working with you? And are your hotels responding with energy that this is something they want to go with? And then post-pilot and selection comes the fun part. It comes scaling. This is just about getting it out there, right? This is a bit of internal marketing, internal comms, but there's also a bit of more robustness, right? It's about putting in place new processes, measuring things to make sure you're having the impact you want. You know, if you've got a cluster of hotels that are doing really well with a new partner, a new capability area, well, can you share that with the rest of the estate? So it's just kind of getting people on discussions and webinars. Again, can't stress enough here, that relationship with the partner. Are they doing enough to support, to drive training? A lot of partners at this point love to be left with their own devices. You know, what they're looking for almost is a hunting license to get going across the hotel estate. And maybe that's fine, or maybe you want to be a little bit more deliberate and curated and introduce them to certain properties, certain countries at a time. And then you've got to manage it all as well, that performance. You've got to have your kind of quarterly business reviews or monthly reviews with the partner on how it's all going. So to dive into a couple of areas, look, strategy is at the core of everything that I've done and at the core of the growth work. So no surprise, we always get people to focus here first. And I would absolutely recommend that. You should have written down somewhere, what is your business's plan for the next 1 to 3 years, depending on your time horizon? Have you built that commercial plan by, you know, what guest experience you want, what segments you need to target? And right now, of course, we're just dealing with so much uncertainty. It's about best guesses. You know, it's about having the vision that we want to go after, you know, domestic leisure in a way that we haven't before. So what capabilities is that going to take? Next up is about digging into P&L. So really trying to benchmark across properties or across the industry. Are you light on F&B revenues? You know, F&B revenues typically run 30 to 35% of revenues in mid-scale, maybe 40 to 50% in upscale and luxury. Well, how do you compare? Does that feel like you need to make a big focus on restaurants and bars? And actually the same would be true on operating cost lines. You know, do you feel like there's some areas of your operations where costs have grown in the past couple of years that actually probably a sign of inefficiency, and you might be able to look at and improve? And at this point, you're need to look at, what are the team working on? What are your team trying to change? Do they have appetite to change? Have you got a culture that when you ask for improvements and new opportunities, people come back and say, yeah, I'd absolutely love to tackle this space? Are you building your own tech? And is that going to really create advantage? Or would you be better off placed to use good third-party tech that's kind of sitting there ready to go? And at this point, not a bad idea to seek some external support, right? Encourage your functional leads to discuss with potential partners, experts in the space, just to understand what options might even exist. Chances are we're all students and there's just going to be way more partners out there than you've ever heard of. And then be really clear, map those priorities and discuss and workshop actually what you're going to work on moving forward. Who's going to own it and do they have kind of support of the team? And then the other deep dive I wanted to do was more around scaling, because great innovation absolutely dies on the vine if it's not nurtured. You know, so just as you should do on day-to-day and other priorities in the business, each partner area needs a really clear owner. It needs clarity across the team, and it needs to be in people's objectives and metrics that they have to work on this stuff. Yeah, make someone the champion of this, even if it's just part of their job. Some of the best clients we've had have taken, a brand leader, an ops leader, and they've put them in this kind of cross-functional role, even if it's just part of their time, where they're encouraged to build that alignment across the business, build a shared agenda about what they're working on, and really start to build it into culture. Setting aside time to create and review new ideas, allow people to try and test, and obviously, no surprise, allow things to fail as well, because not all of these are going to work. And that's why experimentation and testing is really kind of at the heart of it. So is it worth it? Well, let me tell you a bit about kind of the client we've been working recently. And again, before I start, none of the partners we've done in the last 3 months with these guys have touched any of their in-house tech. Budget's completely frozen, teams furloughed. So we just haven't been able to integrate to central res systems, property management systems. But we set ourselves the challenge: what new revenue opportunities are out there that we could go after, even without touching our core system? So we shortlisted 10 areas where we knew we could drive new revenues without touching the core system. What do? Well, we set up an in-house team for idea generation, and we have an online platform called Solverboard that we use with our clients for that. We ran shortlisting and RFI processes where we could see there were multiple vendors in a space. We had to trim these priorities even further, unfortunately, as teams got furloughed. But we were able to put a lot of that work onto partners. And I think if you've got a passionate kind of partner that's really leaning into it, you'll find that they're prepared to do everything they can to move things forward. And what were the results? Well, look, within 60 days, we'd had kind of 3 partners in place in the business. And by our forecast, they were on track to deliver about 2 million euros of incremental revenues this year if the chain can keep this momentum of rolling it out. So that's of 0 internal investment. It's 100% revenue share. And genuinely, and it's important to reflect, they're here to enhance the guest experience. Each of these creates a better booking experience, a better pre-stay experience, or a better kind of at-hotel experience, especially around new areas like contactless, like some of the rules in place around collecting information people, given everything going on with the virus, especially around obviously restaurants and bars. But more importantly, we laid this foundation of future innovation. We shortened their process from kind of 6 months down to 2 weeks, from kind of identifying a partner to getting a first pilot going. So I'll wrap up. I guess for me, partnerships can be everywhere in the hospitality business. Partnership success is about taking time to educate yourself. It's about bringing the right ideas into the business. And one of the things I'd suggest to this group is maybe use your next mentoring discussion, because I think whether it be revenue management, marketing, ops, I think it's really important that we're all talking and sharing some of the partners that are going to be part of the recovery plan in your businesses and in your kind of hospitality areas. I'd also say this is the time, right? Great businesses definitely come back stronger from a crisis, but it's not a given. It needs focus. And I think partnerships are a great way to bring proven technology into a business at really low cost, and they bring with them a ton of high expertise as well. But on the flip side, using a partner is about being willing to share, right? It does take effort. It does take a bit of joint investment. You do share the success. It's a relationship, and it needs to be managed as a proper partnership, not just something that's take. And I think that's a big reason for failure if we were to kind of digest various partnerships between brands and suppliers over the last 10 years or so. And I put it on you, educate yourself on the how to do this, and how do you bring others on the journey. Don't wait for someone else to do this. I think we're always saying, this should come from our owners, this should come from our managers. this should come from HQ or from the chain. It may never happen, right? Everyone has cut back resources. Everyone has cut back budgets. They maybe don't even have this mindset that they want to look at the external world to see what tools and capabilities are out there. So you may be ahead of the pack in thinking about this stuff. One thing we always try, that I'll finish on with clients, is partner demos. It's a really great place to start. Just contact a few partners, have them come in on a video call and literally do a 20-minute presentation, TED Talk style. You know, what problem do they solve? How does the solution work? How could you work together? We've done this with pretty much all of the clients we go in, and everyone learns something. It's a ton of fun, and everyone gets inspired on what could be, what things they could try. If you record those sessions, they then kind of form a bit of bank of content that really kind of is a source of future innovation, a source of future ideas, as ideas kind of live on in the business. So hopefully there's some kind of practical tools, tips, and a really sensible place to get started. So that's it from me. Good luck. Please share your journey with the GrowthWorks Network. I think, you know, we exist as this community to move this stuff forward, and would absolutely love to hear how you go. So thank you.